Blackout poetry is a method for making original poems from previously written texts. The process is simple to learn, but offers a wide range of possibilities. The instructions are very simple. Find a piece of writing, like this withdrawn or recycled book page, and choose the words inside of it that you want to make your poem. Then, with a marker or a pencil or some other way of marking, you go and black out all the rest of the words, so that way the only ones that are left are the ones that make up your poem. When you get your Blackout poetry kit, you'll get pages from withdrawn or recycled books and a Sharpie marker, and that's all you'll need for Blackout poetry. So in order to make a Blackout poem, it's really quite simple. You'll take one of the withdrawn or recycled book pages and the Sharpie marker, and you'll start to find words that you want to keep inside the piece and start to mark out the words that you don't want to keep. This is a process that you can go through and just think about the words that excite your imagination or that you feel an emotional connection to, and use those as your guide for the rest of the poem. And you see, as I start off, I'm not marking off every word, I'm just trying to find a couple of words, things that sort of ignite my imagination, give myself a couple of more options, and as I go through the process, start to remove more and more words until the final piece kind of emerges. And then once you feel like you've gone through and you have something that's complete, you can just mark off the rest of the words. Now that you have everything marked out, you can find ways to emphasize the words that you've kept. So I'm going to sort of block out the words so they stand out a little bit better. You want to make sure that you leave plenty of room for the words that you chose, so that way you can find them again. That's really all it takes to make Blackout poetry, is just a page from a book and your Sharpie marker, just a little bit of imagination and attention, and you'll have your very own poem that you can keep or you can share or give out as a gift, anything that you like to do. And with the first example, you see there's a visual style here as we went and made these long horizontal strikeouts across the page. You can certainly do that, and obviously I think it turned out pretty nice. But you can use any kind of visual style that you like. It's really more about, what inspires you or what moves you, or sometimes happy accidents can take place. So for this one, we'll try something a little bit different. And this one, instead of marking out the words and striking out, I'm just going to do little circles around things, so that way we have them all kind of open and free. That way, as we go and we start to fill things in, we have a lot more space to work with. Okay, this one's going to be quite a simple poem, but that's good. That gives us a lot of space to work with. So now that I have the words of the poem marked out, I'm going to go and make little circles for them, so that way they have plenty of space. Keeps them very legible. I'm going to let my imagination be a little bit freer, and I'm going to go and use a different marker. If you have markers or colored pencils or any other kinds of ways that you can go and write or mark on paper, you can use those and give it a little bit of visual variety. And for this, I'm going to go and do something more like a picture frame and less like long lines across. For me, this last little bit of the poem feels like a strong point of emphasis, so I'll go and make lines radiating out. As long as we make sure that we don't cover up any of the words that we decided to keep in the poem, we can actually go and fill a lot of this in and just sort of play around with it. Now that we have that element there, I thought, why not try a different color for a different element? That way we have 2 points of interest, and it can go and start to kind of come together as some kind of visual theme or element. And for the rest of this, I think what we can do, we can just add in a little bit sort of lighter lines, so that way we start to cut out the old words and keep the new ones, give them a little bit more emphasis. And if it's not turning out precisely the way that you want, that's perfectly all right. A part of the process is practicing or learning or thinking about things. A lot of it is more about the process of making the poem than it really does what the final product is. Of course, if you have a final product that you like, you can always just keep it or send it out as a gift. Anything that you'd like to do with your new poem. I think this is a perfect place for this one to stop. I feel like it has just enough visual interest and just enough poetry to really satisfy my needs. Another style you can use with Blackout poetry is one that marks out almost all of the words except for the ones you chose for your poem. Give it a very intense kind of a look. So we'll give that one a try. When you do that, you'll want to go and make sure that you mark off the words that you want to keep and mark them very strongly, so that way you make sure that you don't cross them out because they want to pop out while everything else has been covered up. Now with the words selected, you want to, like I said, block off all of the words so that way it becomes very clear which ones you're keeping and which ones you'll be taking away. Now with all the words blocked off, you can go and make another kind of a picture frame. Okay, and this time instead of going and filling in lines in the middle, we're just going to cross everything out. And if it's not completely blacked out, that's perfectly fine. That's more a matter of style or taste. The one thing I would suggest is to make sure that the words that you're intending to black out, they aren't clearly legible. That goes and helps with the readability of your final poem. And there you see this one is quite a bit darker and quite a bit bolder than the ones from before. So this is a very strong kind of style, and if that's to your taste, I would definitely give it a try. The visual style we can use, since we're marking on paper, is we can go and add some figure drawing. Add that figure drawing as an element to our poems. So at the risk of embarrassing myself, I'll show you an approach to adding a visual style of figure drawing to your Blackout poem. When doing a figure drawing, I would recommend starting with the pencil. That way you aren't making any large noticeable marks as you start to compose your poem. It gives you a lot more options when it comes to completing the figure drawing. And with our poem composed, we can start to go and find some spaces that are available inside the rest of the poem. This one involves someone sobbing, so I think we can do something of person crying out. And of course, as you start to add in the figure, I think it's helpful to start to also add a little bit more emphasis to the words that you've chosen for your poem. That way, it doesn't get lost inside the rest of the picture. And once you have the basic outline, you can come back with your Sharpie marker and start to make marks that are going to go and sort of flesh out the drawing. And again, it's important to go and make sure that you're keeping your words in mind so that way you don't lose them in this process. Once all the basic elements are in place, just like the same way you could do with the rest of the Blackout poems, you can start to go and cross away the words that you're not using for the poem so that way the words that you are using take on more emphasis. And since we've got a figure here, I think if you can find something like a different color or a different thickness of marker, you can also go and use that to add some emphasis too. So I will use this blue marker to add a little color to our figure. Of course, you can always come back to your words and give extra emphasis to them as well. And of course, because it's your poem, you can decide when you're done, or if you want to keep going, you can always make new decisions, add new elements. What I would say, always make sure that your words, the words that you've chosen, are very legible and that they are very differentiated from the words that you've decided to remove. And of course, because it is your poem, you can also decide whenever you're finished. So I think this guy looks perfectly fine the way they are. Blackout poetry is a fun and expressive way to write poems that are unique to you. It's a fun way to relax, to slow down, and to practice mindfulness. I hope you found this video inspiring, and I hope you enjoy making your very own Blackout poetry.